Let's cross the Atlantic and hear what Caleb Maupin, the celebrated American journalist and broadcaster, has to say on this. Bluntly, Caleb, will Donald Trump drag the world into conflict?
Well, Trump certainly likes theater. He likes the idea of being on TV, portraying himself as a hero, depicting himself like he might be a character in a Hollywood action movie. So if Trump thinks that those optics and theatrics are in his benefit for reelection, he may take such moves. However, I've long stated that there are big divisions among the rulers of the United States at this time. Trump seems to be aligned with a faction that feels they've been left out of the club. Wealthy people that are not among America's elite. You've got Betsy DeVos, right? She's Trump's Secretary of Education. She's one of the wealthiest people in the United States, and she's tied to Eric Prince of Blackwater. That's her brother, and that's a military contracting corporation. Trump is very close to Bernie Marcus, who's the owner of Home Depot, which is a hardware store chain in the United States. It's very tied in with military manufacturers.
People around the world were astonished to see heavily armed men with automatic weapons and with the president's encouragement storming citadels, storming the seats of government in various American states. Is this Trump showing before November that he's prepared to fight if it all goes wrong?
When it comes to selling military hardware around the world, when it comes to military interventions and the use of military contractors, you can see Trump tied to people that benefit from that. However, Trump also, he has a lot of supporters who are non-interventionists. He ran on a platform of not intervening around the world, and he's been critical of the kind of soft power strategy and the globalist approach of previous administrations. He seems to be less interested in head-on long-term confrontations. He was critical of the way Libya and Syria were handled. So it's complicated. Trump's supporters seem to be more isolationist and less interested in confrontations around the world, though Trump has cozied up to groupings that are very hostile to Iran, groupings that are very hostile to Venezuela. But when it comes to long-term geopolitical confrontations, what they call frozen conflicts, with countries aligned with Russia and China, Trump seems less interested. He's less interested in NATO and strengthening the NATO alliance in Europe. So it's complex. We shall see how this plays out.
Would Trump accept a defeat in November were it to happen?
Well, the thing is, wars are very unpopular among the U.S. public right now. The U.S. public overwhelmingly, according to poll after poll after poll, is not interested in new military interventions and a new war. Now, Trump has supporters that are among his coalition that are interested in confronting Venezuela, confronting Iran. But in terms of the general U.S. public, beyond special constituencies and lobbyists, there is not an interest in a war. And if Trump were afraid of possibly not being elected and losing his chances of reelection, I would think that he would probably want to de-escalate. He would probably want to give the impression that he's not getting the United States into more military entanglements and more long-term conflicts. If anything, Trump would try to emphasize his role as a non-interventionist or an isolationist. His slogan, America First, was the slogan he used in previous elections. It was actually lifted from the America First Committee, which was a group that tried to prevent the USA from getting involved in the Second World War. Trump appeals to paleo-conservatives, people on the right wing, libertarian elements that seem to be less interested in foreign meddling and foreign confrontations.
Is this pandemic working in favor of Donald Trump's reelection or against it?
Well, it seems right now to be working against him. He's been widely accused of mismanaging and mishandling the pandemic. It seems that many of his critics have gotten a lot of attention and a lot of public applause for calling him out for how he's handled the pandemic. However, Trump has pushed this trade war with China. You have Mike Pompeo, his Secretary of State, who really pushes confrontation with China. And Trump would very much like to blame the pandemic on China and escalate the trade war with China, tensions with China. And if this notion that China is somehow responsible for the pandemic can continue to rise among the public, that can benefit Trump because he's seen as an opponent of China on the international stage. It's very complicated. A lot depends on what happens in the next few months, how the country goes about opening up, and whether or not this anti-China narrative sticks.
Galloway, Maupin, thank you very much indeed from the epicenter, actually, in New York City, where so many thousands, tens of thousands of people have died.